So we're going to solve some slightly more complicated formulas today. This first one kind of reminds me yesterday when I said don't multiply in your h because it'll give you your variable in two places. This one we're starting with our variable in both terms, so really we're going to factor out that variable to get it in only one location, kind of like distributive property backwards. So if you undistribute it or divide both of those terms by y and factor it out so it's still equal to your original, you'll have y times 2x minus 5 equals your 8. And then to undo your multiplication and get y by itself, you'll have to divide both sides by that entire quantity of 2x minus 5. So you just end up with y equals 8 over 2x minus 5. This is one where it's important to remember that you're still solving for y and don't overthink it. So if you want to get y by itself, all you need to do is divide both sides by 4x. So you just have 3 minus x all over 4x equals y. You could break it into two separate fractions, 3 over 4x minus x over 4x, or 3 over 4x minus 1/4, but I would just leave it. All right, the more complicated ones with lots of fractions. So if you're working on these ones, there's two different methods. I'll show you the first way here. If you have two fractions being added, let's go ahead and add them, which means we need a common denominator. So our two denominators involve w and y. So to get them to be the same, I'll have to multiply my first one times y over y, and my second one times w over w, which will give me 2y over wy plus 3w over wy equals 4. So now that they actually have a common denominator, let's go ahead and add them together and write them as a single fraction. So your terms aren't actually like terms on top, so if you add them, it just looks like 2y plus 3w all over wy. Now let's get rid of the fact that that's a fraction there. So I'm dividing by wy. Let's undo that by multiplying both sides by wy. So wy divided by wy just gives me 1. So on the left-hand side, you just get 2y plus 3w equals your 4 times wy. And then we want to get all the terms that have our variable we're solving for on the same side of our equation. So to do that, let's subtract 2y from both sides. If you're solving for your variable, you want them all together on one side, anything involving that variable. So you'll have 3w equals 4wy minus 2y. And then y is still in both of those terms, so we're going to factor it out. Undistributed, think backwards here. So if you do factor that out, you're going to have 3w equals your y on the outside times 4w minus 2, so it still equals what you had a second ago. And then to get your y by itself, you could divide by 4w minus 2. So it's all kind of coming together, using a lot of the same ideas. This one's just a little bit messy. When you're all said and done, you end up with 3w over 4w minus 2. Now in this one, I want to show you a second option for solving these. So in either case, you would want to go ahead and subtract the two, make this a little bit simpler first. You could get a common denominator and add those together like we did on the last one. Another way you can do it is you could multiply both sides by your denominators one at a time, and that would get rid of your fraction a little bit faster. So let's see what that would look like. I'm going to pick and just multiply both sides by x first, since that's the denominator of my first fraction. Don't forget to distribute it. That'll give you x over x plus 3x over z equals 2x. Now the reason I did this is because x divided by x is just going to simplify to 1. Then I'll do z. So again, multiply it to both terms, which is going to give you z plus 3xz over z equals 2xz. And then z divided by itself is 1, so you just get z plus 3x equals your 2xz. Get all the terms that involve your variable you're solving for together, so subtract z from both sides. And then, a lot like earlier, we need to factor out our z, so it's only in one place in our equation. That is a 1z, so if I factor that out, there should be a 2x minus 1. It's easy to forget, but you can kind of check by thinking about multiplying it back together. Then finally, divide both sides by your 2x minus 1, and you'll end up with 3x over 2x minus 1. So either of those methods works. You can use whichever one you like better.